Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office, has struck again. He's back on his disinformation tour, this time with another op-ed that appeared in Scientific American today. And we're going to get into that in a moment, but before we do, I want to talk about a press briefing that was held by the Pentagon today with regard to UFOs. Only certain members of the press were invited. This was a closed briefing. If you weren't from certain press agencies that were on the invite list, then you weren't there. I just was watching a little segment from News Nation where Ross Coulthart, the investigative journalist, was talking about this, and he said that basically because outlets like News Nation ask hard questions, they're not invited. They want the outlets that toe the Pentagon line there, basically. That's just my words now. They want the outlets that toe the Pentagon line there, the ones that will just basically serve as press relations for the Pentagon, because they don't want to ask. They don't want to be asked the hard questions. They don't want to have to answer a lot of these questions that other outlets have put out there. And so that's a shame. As of right now, I was hoping to be able to talk about this today. I was hoping that this historical records report that's been touted by Kirkpatrick in recent weeks was going to be released today, and I would have something to talk about with regard to that. But unfortunately, I'll have to save that for another podcast later this week. That doesn't matter. There's a lot of other things to talk about. And in fact, I want to get into it right now. Now, Kirkpatrick has put out a op-ed today in Scientific American, and the headline reads, "We need to investigate UFOs, but without the distraction of conspiracy theories." Basically, what's happening here now, Kirkpatrick believes that UFOs need to be investigated. However, AARO doesn't need to be looking into these conspiracy theories that people are pushing out there. The idea that there's a cover-up and that there's reverse engineering programs. That shouldn't be AARO's job, so he's bemoaning that fact. Well, he's not even there anymore. He's just the talking mouthpiece now for AARO, an outside consultant. So I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Congress created this office for the purpose of not just studying UFOs, trying to get information to the public, but also to find out, to dig deep into these conspiracy theories, because some of these conspiracy theories, there is legitimacy to them, right? There is a reverse engineering program based on the research of many different people over many decades, as well as the allegations by David Grush and other whistleblowers who have been meeting with people in Congress. Now, Kirkpatrick denies that any of these people have ever stepped up to AARO to provide any sort of information. And again, I believe this is gaslighting. I think that he's lying. It could be that he's just a useful idiot, that he knows nothing, and that they're not giving him anything. But he has to know, and from the position that he's in, right, he has to know that there's some phoniness about what the Pentagon says about UFOs, that there's nothing to it, that there's nothing about extraterrestrials. There's no such thing as extraterrestrials, that they have no evidence of this. That's a lie. They do know about this. There's no question about it. But anyway, I'm going to go through some of this and talk about it. It says here, little else titillates and piques the national interest like unidentified flying objects and space aliens. Of course, he uses the term space aliens. Now, he doesn't use non-human intelligences in here at all. He refers to the phenomenon as extraterrestrials, period. There's no use of non-human intelligence in here. As we all know, Congress made it clear in all this language when they created AARO, they're not just saying extraterrestrials, they're also saying non-human intelligences. So, but he doesn't use that here. Anyway, continue. I just want to point that out. Whether that means something or not, I don't know, but it could mean something. Anyway, it continues here. It says, after more than a century of films featuring intelligent creatures from other worlds and over 7 decades after the United States government began investigating them, UFOs remain a flashpoint for conspiracy theorists and science deniers. By any name, UFOs or unidentified anomalous phenomena conjure the most vivid images and plots allowed by Hollywood and novels alike. Who doesn't want to believe? Now, let me just stop there for a second. So basically, he's saying that the reason that people are really interested in this, and some people believe in it, what he's trying to say here is, oh, because they watched UFOs and aliens in movies, they saw this kind of stuff before and they want it to be true. That's not the case. That's not the case. In fact, when I talk about my experience, which I'm going to do a different separate podcast before the end of this week about this, about my experiences. But when I was a kid in the late 70s and there was a creature that showed up in my room, for years I had no idea what that was. I thought it was something from hell. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea about it, even though I grew up watching science fiction and monster movies, right, all the time. That's what I did. Little kids back in the 70s, what they did, little boys, they watched Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, Earth versus the Flying Saucer, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, the War of the Worlds, and so on and so forth. I thought it was all nonsense. When I was a kid, I didn't believe any of that stuff. I just watched it because I found it entertaining. And in fact, the first time I was ever exposed to the potential reality that there is an extraterrestrial presence on this earth, and I still didn't even really give it that much credence at the time, was I was walking through the room while my dad was watching an episode of In Search Of, circa 1980, when I was about 11 or 12, and they're talking about the UFO crashes, and Roswell was being discussed, and my dad's watching this show, and I said, hey, is that real? I never. He's yeah. You didn't know that, and I didn't know it. I never heard of anything like that before. I didn't know that some people actually believed that these things could be real. I didn't realize at the time that all these movies that Hollywood was putting out was because of the UFO phenomena, the UFO mania that started in 1947 when everyone started seeing these things. I didn't understand that at the time. What things back then weren't like they are now, where you have the internet and you have access to all this information. All you had was 12 channels on the TV. So if you didn't catch the right program at the right time, you'd have no idea about these things. And I didn't. And it wasn't even until years after that when I finally put two and two together and realized what that thing was in my bedroom in 1977 was a creature not of this earth. Right? I didn't know what it was. I did not know what it was. I really thought it was something out of hell. I had no clue. And then it was watching alien abduction stuff later on in the documentaries in the late 80s. Then I realized that's what it was. I never couldn't even have imagined that before. And I did see all these movies growing up, and I never put two and two together. I just didn't do it. But that's what he's trying to say here. Kirkpatrick is trying to say that people see this stuff in movies and stuff like that, and it gets titillating. It's titillating, and they want it to be true. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. Anyway, continuing here, he says, however, reality, as inconvenient as it can be, remains fundamental. Let me stop there again. Yeah, reality, it is inconvenient. The reality is that there's a presence here, either extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence from someplace. I don't know where, right? But there's something here that's technologically more advanced than we are. That's inconvenient, I know, for the people in the Pentagon and for people like Kirkpatrick, but that's the inconvenient truth here, Sean. Continuing here, it says, in 2022, Congress found the courage to put into law the creation of the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, jointly managed by the Department of Defense and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Let me just stop there. Let me bemoan the fact that it is jointly managed by the DOD and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, but particularly the DOD, right? Because the DOD doesn't want you to know the truth about this. So that's unfortunate that they are managing it. This should have been separate from all of that. Anyway, continuing here, it says, its mission is quite straightforward. Apply an unbiased scientific method and intelligence tradecraft to review existing information and data on historical UAP and investigate new data as these are provided to the office from military, federal, state, and local entities as well as private citizens. AARO's underlying raison d'etre is to investigate, evaluate, analyze, and provide actionable information for use by our national security leadership. Now, I just want to point out here, raison d'etre, that's French. That means that it's the most important reason or purpose for someone or something's existence. So basically, he could have used actual English words for that, but because he was trying to impress the highbrow, scientifically minded audience that reads these audience, he wanted to make sure that that they know he's really intelligent and knows some French, right? He had to throw that in there because the 85% of the public in the United States would not understand what that means. But that's why he did that. That's just my personal opinion on this. But you know what? I actually want to throw out something for him. I want to say I say that Sean Kirkpatrick is a mentor extraordinaire. Right, you know what that means? Extraordinary liar in French. See, I could do it too. Anybody can do that. I could do. Maybe I hope the scientifically minded, highbrow people out there are a little bit more impressed with me now. Anyway, continuing here, it goes on. He says, its purpose, AARO's purpose, is not to prove or disprove the existence of extraterrestrial life, but to address the safety and security of our people, our operations, and our nation. Okay. But then he goes on to say, unfortunately, it is also meant to investigate a conspiracy saturated with the distrust between our legislative and executive branches. It is time for the American people to understand that, and for the DoD, ODNI, and Congress to step up to the plate and enable AARO to finish its mission absent this distraction. So basically what he's saying here is that he doesn't think that AARO should be looking into this alleged reverse engineering program and crash retrieval program. He doesn't think that that should be their purpose. They should just focus on UAP, right? Just serve as some kind of a newfangled Project Blue Book. That's what he's suggesting here. Anyway, continuing, AARO's interest, all-domain phenomena, sea, air, and space, remains an ongoing concern to our national security enterprise, particularly when the phenomena are observed near our nation's sensitive military and critical infrastructure facilities. Observations by experienced military personnel as well as data from highly capable sensors are being reviewed by AARO accordingly to weed out explainable observations and expose truly difficult to explain phenomenology using the most rigorous scientific analysis available. This is its real job, to minimize the risk of intelligence and technical surprise. Many outside observers, nonetheless, have criticized AARO as supposedly part of a continuing government cover-up of the existence of aliens. Let me just stop there again. Whether Kirkpatrick realizes it or not, I personally think that he has to know. But hey, there's always a chance he doesn't. Whether he knows it or not, AARO is just another Project Blue Book. That's what it is, right? They know about this. The Pentagon, there's a secret control group within the Pentagon working with some defense contractors. Whether they call themselves Majestic 12, who the hell knows, right? But there's something there that's been studying this. They're reverse engineering these things. They've been retrieving the crashed UFOs for decades now. That's what's really happening here. But anyway, continuing. Interestingly, they have not provided any verifiable evidence of this, nor are some of them more outspoken, willing to engage with the office to discuss their positions or offer up the data and evidence they claim to possess. Too often, these critics and their supporters rely on second-hand friend of cousin reporting with no personal first-hand knowledge or rigor in their critical thinking. Some claim that those with first-hand knowledge of this supposed cover-up have related to AARO, but no source in my tenure as director of the office has first-hand knowledge of anything to do with an alleged reverse engineering program of extraterrestrial spacecraft. Again, he's calling it extraterrestrial spacecraft. I don't know if that means something, if he's deliberately not throwing in the words non-human intelligence. Maybe this gets him off the hook later on or something. I don't know, but he should have had both of those in there. But anyway, I just want to stop there for a second. There was some comments on Twitter about this. Richard Butt on Twitter X says, Kirkpatrick claims that during his tenure, no source came to AARO with first-hand knowledge of anything to do with an alleged reverse engineering program of extraterrestrial spacecraft. Marco Rubio clearly states there are other high-level individuals with first-hand knowledge making claims which back what Grush stated under oath. And then later on, Joe Murgia, the UFO Joe, asked, did they go to AARO, these whistleblowers? Did they go to AARO or to the Inspector General and or Intelligence Committees? And Richard Butt said, no, they both. This is how they should know that Dr. Kirkpatrick is lying. Yes, that's how they should know. There was some other comments here I want to get into. Ross Coulthard states, so the former Department of Defense AARO boss Kirkpatrick whines that no one is coming forward to AARO with UAP testimony. He doesn't understand that whistleblower, for one thing, there are some now that aren't going there, right? Just to make it clear, this is what Coulthard is saying. He doesn't understand that whistleblowers don't trust his leadership of AARO. Small wonder when the Department of Defense's PR is letting him attack the whole issue as a wacky conspiracy theory and yet another scientific American bleat. Anyway, continuing, Kirkpatrick writes, while those who came forward have provided valuable information, albeit not of extraterrestrials or cover-ups, those who chose to instead titillate the national interest only stir division and hatred against the credible men and women of AARO who are working faithfully to address their mission. Now, let me just stop there for a second. I believe that the people who are working in AARO, they're doing their jobs. They're doing what they're told. I believe that Sean Kirkpatrick is doing what he's being told. Right now, he's at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory as the senior technology officer there. And he's being told what to do. He's being told to go out there and say, hey, there's nothing to this. Hey, just tell them there's no such things. There's no evidence. You never came across anything extraterrestrial. It's all lies. There's no reverse engineering. Just tell them anything. Go ahead. Get out there. Do something. Do something. That's just my opinion. It doesn't make me right, but that's what it feels like because I know we're being lied to. Whenever the Pentagon or their acolytes come out and start talking about UFOs or extraterrestrials, we know that they're lying most of the time. They're not telling us the truth about the extraterrestrial presence, and that's what's happening here. That's my belief. That's my opinion. Does it make me right? No, but that's what I believe. I believe that there is most certainly a cover-up. I know that there's a secret control group. There has to be. There's no question about it. We would be in dire straits if there wasn't. There needs to be a secret study on this. They need to do that, but they need to tell the truth about this, about what the reality of the situation is. Yeah, there's extraterrestrials here, and we don't know what they're up to, and we're working on it secretly. We can't tell you what that's all about, but just know that there's extraterrestrials here. All these people, all these reports. It's not crazy. Some of these things are really happening. That's what they should have done. They should have done it a long time ago, but instead what we're getting is more of this gaslighting. That's what we're getting. Continuing here, it says the AARO continues to offer anyone an opportunity to provide their personal knowledge of an alleged program involving extraterrestrials for the record in a safe and non-adversarial environment. Like Ross Coulthart was stating, I think that people would be afraid right now at this point, at this stage of the game. Why would anyone want to go to AARO? Basically, it's just a branch of the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense is most certainly they take their marching orders from the secret control group when it comes to this topic. That's what's going on here. But of course, the mainstream news pundits, mainstream news outlets, the ones that were invited to that presser today to talk about this records, the new historical records report, I'm sure that they won't investigate this. They'll just, like I said, they're just going to serve as press relations and just basically read the press release that was given to them and then move on. The press release given to them by the Department of Defense, and then just forget about it. Anyway, continuing here, it remains perplexing that some critics are hiding behind their own cloak of secrecy and legal maneuvering, refusing to engage with the AARO when the office has been given full authority by Congress, DOD, ODNI, and others in the interagency process to review all information regardless of its classification while legally protecting those who provide it. If people claim to have evidence involving aliens, they need to come forward to AARO to enable the office to investigate it. Otherwise, hearsay and a scientific and fact-based investigation serves only as a distraction. You know what we haven't heard from Kirkpatrick? What happens when a whistleblower goes to AARO and talks about these programs and where they're located or where they might be reverse engineering a recovered craft? When AARO's told this information, do they just simply call up that agency and say, "Hey, I heard this, this, and this," and then what they just say? And when they tell them, "Oh, that's not true," "Oh, okay, that's good enough. Talk to you later." Is that the extent of his investigation? And he thinks that this part of AARO is something that Congress should have AARO take away, so they don't have to worry about this, and instead just act as a Project Blue Book and try to come up with explanations for some of these unexplained UAP that gets reported. That's basically what he's asking here. And then the rest of it, the ones that are potentially extraterrestrial / non-human intelligences, right? The rest of them, who knows? If we had more information, we'd know. That's what they're doing here. It's just a big gaslighting game. And he's part of it, no doubt about it. Anyway, continuing here, it says there also is a possibility that some observed and reported phenomena are associated with past or ongoing national security programs completely unrelated to extraterrestrials. Unfortunately, some who have been peripherally involved in these programs are taking advantage of the lack of understanding of security compartmentalization among the public and some members of Congress and feel that exposure to national security activities is a public right. No, we don't feel like that. I don't think that that's what people are asking. We're just asking for the truth about the extraterrestrial presence / non-human intelligence presence, whatever it is. Okay, I think it's extraterrestrial, but I could be wrong. We're just asking for what the government knows about this, at least some of it, right? We want to know something. Well, what do you got? At least admit to the reality already, because some of us out there know that it's true. Anyway, continuing, the harm of such exposure would be incalculable. Billions of dollars in decades invested in military capabilities exposed to our potential adversaries to satisfy ill-informed curiosity. Of course, nobody's asking for those kind of secrets to be released. We just want the truth about what the government knows about extraterrestrials. That's what we want. We want them to acknowledge this reality and tell us, what do you know? Tell us about Roswell already. Come clean about it, right? Just come clean about it. You'll feel better about yourself in the morning. I guarantee it. Continuing here, while some staffers and members of Congress may claim that they and the American people have a right to know of every classified research program, Congress already has an established process for notification of sensitive programs to the bipartisan leadership of both the Senate and House, as well as the chairs of and ranking minority members of the Senate and House Intelligence Committees, often referred to as the Gang of Eight. It is incumbent on both the Speaker in the House, the Senate Majority Leader, and both chairs of the Intelligence Committees to ensure that there is no risk of exposing any national security programs in a rush to find extraterrestrials, and that documents are reviewed within appropriate channels. If these members of Congress deem it appropriate not to share classified information, they are doing their job. These are not town hall topics. Okay, now what he's talking about here is this nonsense that we just went through just recently with Mike Turner and Mike Rogers, the chairs of the House Armed Services and Intelligence Committees. That's what he's talking about here. So they're basically tools of the secret control group, and they're told that they were the people that blocked that legislation, basically gutted the UAP Disclosure Act and basically destroyed it for the most part. There was something that was voted on, but it wasn't what it was supposed to be, and it was supposed to be part of the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. No longer that is the case because of those two guys, because again, they received their money for a lot of their campaign contributions from defense contractors who want to keep this secret so they can keep going with their reverse engineering programs. That's what that was about. So that's what he's talking about. They're saying, but he's making it sound like they're doing their job to keep this stuff secret. No. No, we don't need to know. We're people in the UFO community. We're not interested in some of the secret technology that you're developing or the kind of stuff that you use when you're filming UFOs or all that. We're not we're not trying to ask for that. We just want you to come clean about this extraterrestrial presence and tell the world the reality of the situation already. That's what we want, because we know that you're lying. Anyway, continuing here, it says, lost in the hyperbole about a government conspiracy to hide the existence of alien spacecraft and physical remains is the real potential that the unexplained phenomena represent a dangerous technological leap by our peer competitors, China and Russia. You knew that was coming. You always got to talk about China and Russia. Worry about them. Look at the shiny object, you dummies, you dopes. Look at China and Russia. You got to worry about them. We can't talk about this stuff because of China and Russia. Might be them. When we know it's such an insult to intelligence, when we know this has been going on since at least 1947, right? People have been seeing these things. There's no way it was China or Russia. And a lot of these times, a lot of these cases, it's not China or Russia. The Pentagon knows this. They're just gaslighting you. They're lying to you. They're lying to all of us. It just continues. Continuing here. Anyway, he writes, China and Russia, it could be weapons testing, spying, or just technology testing. Oh, sure, they're doing some of that stuff, I'm sure, right? But that's not what we're talking about here. We don't care about that. Such a leap would present a national security crisis. As mandated by Congress, DoD and ODNI must fully engage with and support AARO to ensure that it is receiving the resources and government-wide collaboration required. Likewise, critics of AARO must step up and become part of the solution by collaborating, providing the full disclosure of any and all information that they hold. Yeah, but you're not really, apparently people have already stepped up, according to Marco Rubio, right? People have already stepped up and told AARO about things, and then you said there's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. You didn't find anything. You investigated and didn't find anything. That's what's going on. So what's the point, really? I guess in some of their minds, basically, if any of these people step up and talk to AARO, it's almost like going to the Department of Defense and telling them, and they're afraid of it now because the way you're talking. Anyway, continuing here. It says, while future book deals or selling a story to Hollywood may be hard to resist for some, They are not what this effort is about. Sensationalism and the politicization of science do not aid in finding the truth. While everyone wants an answer now, the truth will take time. Physics cannot be reinvented to fit a desired outcome, and analytic conclusions cannot be made based on questionable data and the word of credible witnesses alone. And when the data do not fit your theory, the theory is wrong, not the data. That's wrong. This whole paragraph is wrong. Basically, again, this is just double talk backward. Again, it's just trying to show you a shiny object. Forget about what the essence is of what we're talking about here. Forget about what the essence is. There's a cover up. It's been going on a long time. There's a faction within the United States government working along with some defense contractors that have gone out throughout the decades, have recovered crashed UFOs, crashed alien / non-human intelligence craft, right, and then have been secretly trying to reverse engineer this stuff, and God knows what else they've been trying to study that we don't even know about, right? That's what's that's the essence here. That's the reality of the situation, right? That's the reality. We know this based on for one thing, if you're just on Roswell alone, we know this. We know this based on Roswell alone, right? The government has been lying about Roswell for decades now. They're still lying about it. They're going to lie about it again in this new historical records report that I've been talking about. They're going to lie about it again in there. They're going to give us a fifth explanation for it. That just with that case alone, we know that they have something in their possession. We just know it. We know it based on all the testimony from all these different individuals that were interviewed that gave deathbed confessions. We know that. A lot of us do. I know there's some people out there that don't know it because they haven't studied it, and they just told the Pentagon line, oh yeah, it's just balloons and crash test dummies. That's what it was. People are stupid. That's the Air Force's explanation. People are dumb. It was just crash test dummies and balloons. Our top intelligence people in Roswell at the time were stupid. That's what they're basically trying to tell you. That's not the case. That's not true, though. We know that. Anybody with a modicum of critical discernment would understand that. Anyway, continuing here, it says, in the multiple reports to Congress that I oversaw, full insight into AARO's methodology, status, and results, both unclassified and classified, has been provided. Anyone saying otherwise is not part of the 12 committees that oversee AARO's mission. Critics need to learn how access to information within Congress works. If the true issue is the scope of government classification and congressional notification, that should be addressed in the appropriate fora, not by chasing ET. Oh yeah, forget about ET. Look over here at the shiny object, China, Russia, other stuff. Forget about ET. This is a serious national fact-based scientific effort to avoid the potential for a grave intelligence failure that could lead to a devastating strategic surprise to our nation. Only science and objective evidentiary-based investigation will prevent that. Well, unfortunately, the objective evidence out there is being suppressed, whether by the secret control group and maybe perhaps with AARO's assistance here. And that's what's going on. They're suppressing the evidence from the people, and people are just left stupefied. They think you're dumb. I mean, the bottom line is this. They think for one thing, there's a lot of people out there without common sense. Even a lot of people in the scientific community, there's a lot of them that lack common sense. They don't have it. They don't have the wherewithal to even sit down and try to study this and understand that this is a reality, that there is a presence here, right? Some of them just don't have that. They just think it's stupid, right? Because they're stupid. They don't have any common sense. And that's what Kirkpatrick relies upon. He relies upon all the people that are out there in the mainstream news that have no common sense, that have no desire to study this, to educate themselves on this topic. That's what he's relying upon, trying to make it look silly, calls it space aliens, things like that. There's nothing out there, he says. He's lying. That's what's going on. AARO, it's an arm, it's a branch, it's just an extension of the Department of Defense, and we know that the Department of Defense has been lying about this for decades, and that's all this is. We're getting the same thing just through another outlet, another avenue. Congress created it, but the DOD is the one that put it together, and this is what we're getting. It's the same old, over and over again, and again, we're going to get that historical records report, and that's going to be bogus too. For all I know, it might already came through, but I haven't seen it yet because I decided to move forward and do today's podcast. But one more thing I want to add. Lou Elizondo did go on Twitter just a little while ago, about an hour ago. And he wrote this. He says, friends, it's always most quiet before the storm. There is no going back. Some members of Congress finally know what's going on. Some officials in the executive branch are scrambling. Efforts are underway below the wave tops, the results of which will break the surface and reveal themselves at a time of our choosing. This is going to be an interesting year for those who continue to obfuscate. We are hard at work for you. Okay, Lou, you're making a statement here, so it's March. I mean, you're talking about this year. It's going to make it interesting for people to obfuscate. You got to come through. You got to come through with something more than what we have. So you're making that statement. Let's have it. If you're going to say something like that, like make sure that something happens before the end of this year, sooner rather than later. I'm looking forward to it. So come on, let's get going with it. We're tired of these dumb games. We need the end all evidence already. We need to get across that red line that a lot of us are talking about. It's time. This has going on too long. We're tired of the lies. We're tired of the obfuscation, and it's time to move on. And it's time for the human race to understand the reality of the situation. We are not alone. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.